Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Today, I am going to do another solo show, folks. The thing is, we're all up in arms and everybody is talking all about what happened with Ivy and Houzz last week. And while there are many business experts in the world and in our industry that are going to talk to you about the ramifications as far as the actual acquisition, your private information, your client's information, and there have been Facebook Lives about it. There have been other podcast panel discussions about it. There have been blog posts about it, and I've been invited to take part in some of these. But I really feel that at the heart of it, there is another story here and another lesson that I'd like to discuss with you. And so this by no means should indicate to you that I minimize the fear that you have about your private information, that it should indicate to you that I minimize what happens to you if you were part of the Ivy community and what happens with the acquisition. This is basically has nothing to do with that, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. I see something else in the middle of this that I think that there's an opportunity for you to examine and look at it as it relates to your own interior design firm. And that's what I'm here to talk about. So that for us at WindowWorks and at this podcast, I have said it many times that we think that it's very important here that you establish your company mission and your core values. Okay. I've said this for the 2 years that I'm on the podcast. And if you are new to the podcast and you're thinking that I'm just going to conveniently say this to you right now, I ask you to go and not only listen to the IWCE keynote speech that I gave in 2017. It's on the podcast list. You can find it there, where I specifically discuss that our core values at WindowWorks are integrity and customer service. But I also have been on a lot of other people's podcasts. Early as August 2015, I was on Weird Entrepreneurs. That's the name of the podcast. I think it was episode 97. And I specifically talked about how integrity and customer service are at the heart of everything that we do at WindowWorks. Since then, I've been on Jamie Masters' Eventual Millionaire. I've been on Nicole Culver's Blissful Bites. I've been on Katie Kremisko's Biz Women Rock. There's several. And when I'm on somebody else's podcast, these are the types of things that I talk about. So this is not new, even if it's the first time you're hearing me say it today. I've been saying it, that I fully believe that every single business person has an obligation to run their business with integrity and to pay very close attention to their customer service. And that's what I think is at the heart of what happened here with Ivy. So let's just say that my observation is outside looking in. I'm not in the Ivy community. Okay. You know that I'm an investor in My Doma Studio, and there were reasons for investing in My Doma Studio. I like the leadership. I like Sarah Daniele. I like the way they run their company. This was a decision on our part to connect and to be connected to this company, just the way it was a decision on my part to reach out to Kravit Inc. These are companies that I admire, that have track records of being industry leaders and of having your back. Okay. So the thing about Ivy is what I know is from looking outside in. And looking outside in and just hearing things, I feel like I know it. I'm not going to say I feel like it. I know that there have been red flags throughout the last year and a half that they've come onto the scene. I've plain English said, wow, that's sort of a red flag. Certain things like there would be somebody that would express something in their Facebook group that they were dissatisfied with something or were unhappy about something that was going on as a member and wanting to get some feedback and address it by the admins. And rather than address it or diffuse it or explain it or talk to it, the admins would remove the comments. Okay, so these are the types of red flags that I have been outside looking in, hearing over the last couple of years. And I want to suggest to you that if you are an Ivy community member, that my guess is that you were having these same thoughts, that you would get little gut checks. You'd be like, wait, I love it so much here, but why did they do that? Oh, I love this community so much, but that's weird. These are such amazing, leaders, and these are such amazing, comrades in here and peers in here, but why did they do that? Because I contend that if that were not happening, this would not have hit you so hard in the gut the way it did. Because I contend that it's sort of like when I always use analogies either to exercise or relationships, right? So think about if you were dating somebody. And you've been dating for a while, and they do these little wiggy things. It's like, well, where were you on Saturday night? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And whatever they say makes sense, but not quite. And you're like, oh, that's fine, whatever. And then something happens again a month or 2 months later, and all in between, it's been amazing. And you have such a good time, and you go places together, and so attentive, and a great relationship. Everything's fun, but then something else happens again. And you're like, well, that's weird. But then it gets explained away, or, whatever it is, and you let it go. And then the big thing happens. Somebody says to you, your XYZ boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever is cheating on you. And you just look and you're like, what? And then all of those times, all those red flags come to mind. And you think, they talked it away. They made me feel safe again. They made me trust them again. I wanted it to be what I wanted it to be. I wanted to see what I wanted to see. But now there's no choice but to see what is. Okay? Now, so here's what I'm saying. Do I have all the answers? Do I have all the information? No. I am making a commentary based on outside looking in. And I want to suggest that if this is what it is, and if this is what's true, I just want you to learn the lesson to not be this person in your business, in the way that you run your company, your interior design firm, because you can make a decision to always do the right thing by your clients. You can make the decision to always do the right thing by your employees, to not, just smooth them over with things that are not true, or smooth them over with promises and things that never come to pass, okay? Because we have the same case with Houzz. Houzz has done the same thing with us, right? They courted us. And then all of a sudden, not so happy anymore, right? Now, I'm a Houzz user. I have been a Houzz advertiser for several years. And actually, this past September, I decided that we would no longer be continuing advertising with Houzz this year. I was not going to take us off the platform, okay? But I wasn't going to give them any more money. And the reason why was because I noticed a shift in their customer service. I noticed a shift in their attitude towards us as their client. And this whole tagging thing, I think, is horrible. It really doesn't affect my business. You can tag a custom window treatment all day long. A consumer can't get that. She can't go and find that for cheap or better. It's custom. That's the whole darn part of it, okay? But for you guys, I know that's, you want to sit there and you want to put in your designs a beautiful Kravat custom-made sofa, and they tag it and show you like junk that's made by whatever company. That's gross. That's just horrible business, okay? So, but the thing is, I was noticing this shift, and I thought to myself, well, we still get clients all the time. We get inquiries all the time. We just closed one last week. But I was making a decision that I no longer wanted to give them my money, okay? That I thought, I'll use what I can use. I'll do what I can do. I think it makes sense to be there from the greater public's perception of finding us on the web and everything else. But I was got to the point that I was no longer willing to give them my money. Okay. And then the interesting thing was it was so confirmed for me that I had made the right decision because ironically, despite the last several years that each time our contract would be due, I would get an email that said, could we please set up a telephone conversation to talk about what your advertising was last year, what areas you had, what zones you were in, how many, how it was structured and what the invoice would come out to. Guess what happened this year? Instead of getting that phone call, I just got an email that said, oh, Luann, we just wanted to let you know that we tried to collect your new invoice for your new contract with us and your expiration has passed on your credit card. Excuse me? You were just going to collect $9,000 on my credit card without a conversation? Let's forget about what if I wanted to 3 times my zones this year? How about that? Okay. How about that? No, but that's not what it was. I had decided not to advertise. And if we had a credit card with them that wasn't expired, they would have just, collected 9. No, you see, so it was funny because like I said, I had decided a few months ago I didn't love the shift and I didn't love where it was going. And so I wasn't going to re-up with them. And that sort of went, yeah, you always listen to your gut, Luann. It's a very good gut. So here's the thing. I feel like that the reason that this was so difficult these last couple of weeks for us as an industry is because it was a stomach punch, because you felt betrayed. I feel like that these two companies had little by little eroding your trust in ways that maybe collected, individually along the way didn't seem so big and didn't seem so glaring. But then all of a sudden, when this happened, you look back and you look at them collectively and you're just like, these companies haven't had our back. These companies have let us down. These companies are after something else, and it's not about uplifting us and our community. Okay? So when that happens, that's yucky, right? It's yucky because it makes you question yourself. It makes you look and say, how did I miss this? It makes you wonder, who can you trust next? But I want to say a few things to you about this. Number one, if you were getting those red flags, whether we're talking about to Ivy or to Houzz, I was getting them with Houzz, okay? If you were getting those red flags, then you can still trust yourself. Maybe you didn't take action on it. Maybe you were getting the red flags and still convincing yourself that everything was okay. And that's okay. You learn. You live and you learn. That's what I try and really help you with a lot on a lot of the shows is when I am interviewing an interior designer who has shown in one of their lessons how they listen to their gut. I always point that out to you because that's so important to cultivate and to learn. And it helps you so much in business. And that's why, for me, this past fall, I didn't debate over it. I didn't wonder. I didn't angst. I was like, it's over. It's done. I'm out of here. And the thing is, I could have been wrong. They could have been the most amazing company in the world and everything else. But you know what? I was listening to my gut. And so that's what I'm sort of saying is that when we are seeing writing on the wall and we talk ourselves around it, we rationalize ourselves around it, and then it gets to be too big that we can't, we question ourselves and we think, how did I not know it? But I'm asking you, did you know it? Did you know it? Did you have this inkling that something wasn't quite right? And if you did, just sit in that a moment, recall those feelings, and make the promise to yourself that going forward, you will give those voices, those feelings, more opportunity to be examined. Okay. So, and this happens when you're dealing with clients, right? So we say all the time, run from the crazy pants clients. So, we make a joke, okay, they're crazy, run away. But we know that moment when somebody isn't our right client. We know that moment when the project, maybe the client is terrific and wonderful, but you know that that's not your right kind of project, okay? These are the things. This is what I think is at the heart of this Houzz Ivy thing from a business standpoint, from a business development, a personal business development standpoint, okay? That you continue as much as you can to pay attention and cultivate your inner voice and your instinct and your gut when something doesn't seem right. And even though everything looks fun, everything looks great, the community in Ivy was vibrant, and look, the girls are delightful. And I have to say, as business people, to have developed something in such a short period of time that was, so important and so recognized by another company to give, an offer of $30 to $40 million, that's significant. Okay. So just as a recognition of that, that's two really smart, brilliant people that create that. And I acknowledge that. Was everything else handled right? I don't know. I'm not in the community. I'm watching the reaction, and I'm trying to connect the dots based on the things that I do know. And like I said, the things that I do know is that I have been, I've heard you guys talk about these red flags, so that's where I'm at with this. Okay. All right. And then of course, the selling to Houzz. Okay. We all know that we've had our reservations there. And so I have to say that your lesson in listening to your gut and paying attention to it when you're dealing with vendors, when you're dealing with clients, when you're dealing with your employees, this is extremely important. The other side of this is to go back to the beginning when I was saying was, how do you run your company? What are your core values? Do you consider integrity and customer service to be very, very high on your list of core values? Because if you do, then you're never the business person that creates or causes red flags for your clients, for your employees, and for your vendors. Okay? Learn to live in a space of integrity. I learned this lesson from many people, obviously, but where the most glaring, where it was taught to me, was with my father-in-law. And I mentioned this in the IWCE speech. I mentioned it in that podcast that I was interviewed in 2015. He was a master plumber, and he was from the World War II era. And he one day was talking about a problem that he was having with one of his customers. And one of us at the table said something like, well, why don't you just tell him you can't do it? He turned around and looked at us like we had 10 heads. He said, but I told them I would do it. And we're like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, let me tell you something. He said, all you have in this world is your name. He goes, think about what your name means to you. And I just looked at him. I was dumbfounded. I was probably 20 or 21 years old. And I just looked at him, and he said, my name means something. When somebody says my name to their friend, their neighbor across the street, when they say the name of my company to somebody, I want it to mean something. And I was absolutely floored. I took it so to heart. And I just, from that moment on, I thought, me too. I want Window Works to mean something. I want when somebody hears the name Window Works, they think, wow, that's an awesome company. Those owners care about their employees. They care about us as their clients. They care about their vendors. They care about their reputation in the community. Okay. And the thing is, what I learned is I made that decision at 20, 21 years old to emulate my father-in-law and to really, as much as I could, influence our business to be that way. And what I'll tell you is 35 years later, it has paid off. It is one of the number one things that I honestly believe that has contributed to the success of our company. The fact that everybody that deals with us can understand that we can be depended upon to do the right thing. That if you have something that you are not happy about with us, we're not going to tell you, forget it, I don't want to talk about it. We're not going to delete your comments, from our email and pretend it didn't happen. Okay? You need to run your company like a grown-up. You need to give your consumers, your clients, the respect of a conversation when they're unhappy about something, because that is how you make a client for life. If you can take a situation with a client who's unhappy and turn it around to where they are happy again, that's a client for life. Okay? So what happens is you can have, I say to you all the time with Window Works, I'm going to have 150 clients this month. You might have 3 because the models are so different. Your clients go on for weeks and months and ours go on for days and weeks, okay? But my point is that you can do 10 clients in 2 months or 300 clients in 2 months. The ones that come in through your process, go through everything, and every single thing goes smoothly and ends, they'll remember you. They'll be glad. They'll be okay. And you know what? In 5 or 6 years, some of them are going to forget who you were. They're going to oh, we hired that designer and everything went good. What was that person's name again? But when there is a problem in your dealing with a client, when there is a problem on a project, if there's a problem with the tile, I don't care what the problem is. When you solve that problem, when you come to that conversation fully respectful and honest and own your part of it and come with solutions and you make everything right for your client, that client remembers you forever. Okay, that's how you want that client to remember you. Not when your client comes to you with a problem and you pretend it's not there and you delete it. You just say, no, this isn't a problem. You don't know what you're talking about. No. You solve somebody's problem. You look them in the eye. You tell them, I hear you. I understand that you're unhappy. I understand that this didn't go the way it should go, but I'm here to make it right. That's how you make clients for life, okay? And then the other thing is that I have to say, I think part of what happened here is that there was no good faith. There was no goodwill that Ivy or Houzz could have traded on with you guys, okay? So let's understand something. Let's say that you had no red flags with either of these companies over the last couple of years. Let's say that every single thing, every interaction, every single thing was always just the most positive experience with both of these companies. And then the same thing happened, right? They sell. Maybe instead of being terrified, instead of being frightened, instead of being worried, what would they do with your information? What would they do with your client's information? You might have been happy. You might have said, whoa, I'm an Ivy user and Ivy just got like $40 million. This could be pretty awesome. Who knows what things that they can do and invest in this platform to make it so much better, right? It's possible that could have been your reaction. But instead, because there were red flags along the way that you were aware of, that you were ignoring, or that you were, maybe you, I don't mean to imply that you were not aware and you were ignoring. I mean, you might have had no recourse, okay? I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not judging movement or non-movement on your part, okay? There's always a time to sit and wait and see if somebody's really going to hang themselves or they're going to clean their stuff up, okay? But what I'm saying is that because it was one more thing and then this thing was a big thing, I believe that's why it was the stomach punch. And I believe that's why it was so frightening and is so frightening to you, because at the heart of it, how many times have they said, oh, we're not going to sell your information. Oh, we're not going to reveal your information, blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, everybody keeps saying, but. Are you sure? But. Are they really going not to? Are they really not going to? But. And why is that? Because you don't have trust in them. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, if everybody trusted both the Ivy, leadership and company and Houzz, nobody would be afraid. They'd be like, this is awesome. These are two great companies. They have our back. They always have demonstrated that they have our back, and we're good to go. So that's the thing. And so what I'm saying is flip that around. Ivy and Houzz are going to go on. They're going to figure out a way around this. They're too big now not to. But what are you going to take from this? What are you going to take, and what are you going to do in your business so that you don't ever have a situation where your client doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt, that your client is ready to just say, that's it, last straw. I don't believe you anymore. I don't trust you anymore. Okay? Because all along the way, there are little things that you do that express to your client that you are either a business owner with integrity or you're a business owner that sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. Okay? And the reality is you don't always get called out on it. Okay? Just like as there were things going along with these two companies over the last couple of years, us as their consumers we were aware, we were like, not loving that, that's not great, but we weren't calling them out on it. And of course, it's a little harder. They're bigger companies. It's not the same as your direct client to you. But what I'm saying to you is that when you are trying to get away with something, when you are saying to your client, that carpet is really just fine, there is no flaws in it, or, that seam isn't that bad. Like some clients are going to just not fight anymore, but don't think they don't see the seam. I mean, I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? And so what I mean by it is that if you've given a client little red flags along the way, you're not going to know it from them always. I believe you always know it. I believe any time that we are not truthful and we are not honorable, we know it. Okay? You can lay your head down on the pillow and try and forget about it, but I want to believe unless you're a psychopath, and I mean that for real, okay, then you know when you are not being 100% honorable with whoever you're dealing with, okay? And so just because you don't get called out on it by your client each time it happens, or even if it only happens once or twice, don't think they don't know it. And that's my point. Because when something really hits the fan, whether it's your fault or not, now they're going to go nuts. And you're going to look and go, that person's crazy. So let's say there's been 2 or 3 times during the process of a project that you have not had a client's back fully. Not enough for them to fire you. Not enough for them to write the Better Business Bureau. Not enough for them to do anything other than think, all right, not so crazy about that, right? Just the same spot we've been in with Houzz, and it sounds like that you guys have been in with Ivy, okay? Not enough to go crazy pants, but just like this. Then what happens? What happens when a trade comes in, a vendor comes in, and they completely, I don't know, they wire. One time I was on a project and the plumber had put the hot water to the cold water and the cold water to the hot water on a designer. And, it's just crazy. Thankfully, in that situation, the designer had a good relationship with the client. But what I'm saying is, what if you have 1 or 2 times not really had the back of your client, and 1 or 2 times you tried to get them to agree to something or accept something that you really knew wasn't so right, but it was going to cost you money if they didn't do it, or it's going to cost you time if they didn't do it. And they seem to yes you, and it seemed to be fine, and you seem to roll past it. Now something big happens. Guess what? They're going nuts. They're going nuts because now all the things are going to roll into that one moment. They're not going to look at you and say, you know what? Every single thing on this project has been absolutely, really top shelf. You've managed everything. You've kept me abreast of everything. Any time I've asked you a question, you've been truthful with me. And now that we've got this big problem where the hot water and the cold water are mixed up and all the tile has to come down, and guess what? The tile's back ordered for 6 months. You know what? I'm not at all happy, don't get me wrong, but I know that you have had my back this whole time. And so let's just see what can we do to get this cleaned up. How are you going to do it? Okay. That's the kind of client reaction you want to have. You want to have the client reaction, have your back, have the benefit of the doubt. But you know what? You only get that by earning it. You only get that by earning it. It's never given to you. You must display integrity. You must give customer service with no questions asked, with no conditions on it, in order for your customer to expect and know that you have their best interests at heart, even when things are, hitting the fan and it doesn't look like it. And so that's what I really think happened here. That's my 2 cents. I feel like that if Ivy had sold to a company that did not feel like they were trying to marginalize you and your businesses, it wouldn't have been as painful. I feel like, the comments that came out about you not being business people and stuff, it turns out that he explained it was out of context and everything else. I don't even know if he adequately explained it. The point is, to me, that's like the 11 o'clock news. Like, don't tell me one sentence and not tell me the whole thing. My point is, though, in bringing it up, is that when you already have a red butt about something, okay, then every little thing just inflames it. And that's what I'm contending here. I'm contending here that as an industry, that we were not so thrilled with these things that were happening. And then when this collision, this announcement came, it questioned every time that we looked the other way. It questioned every time we thought, well, you know what, I'll just keep going along and giving them my money, either one, whoever we're talking about here, and it'll be fine. And so, you know what? I know that this does not solve the problem about your private information. I know that this doesn't even address this problem about your client's private information. I can tell you this. My guess is that as far as they are concerned, they are probably not nearly as interested in the specific client information that you're afraid of getting out there than you think they are. I was speaking to somebody in the industry who I respect very much and has a much larger view of this than many of us do at this level. And this person said to me that whether Mrs. Smith in Iowa has bought a sofa that, for $4,000 that she was charged $8,000 is of so little relevance to a company of this level. He said what's relevant is the data as a whole. What's relevant is that there have been 50,000 people that have bought $4,000 blue sofas in the last year. He says that's the sort of data that's important, and because that's the data that will help them drive marketing and know where to invest their dollars for initiatives, okay? And that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it's a community of 2,400 designers. That is, on one hand, a large community, but that's not $30 million worth of information. I'm sorry. I get people every day of the week asking me if I want to buy an email list of interior designers on it, and I can get 20,000 names for $3,000. I've never bought it, by the way. Don't worry about that. But the point is that you don't spend $30 or $40 million for 2,400 designers, individual net and gross profit margins. I think it's more about that being able to, look, they're going to use the information that's there, no question, in order to skew and advertise and market. It's sort of like what we say, right? You go on a website and you look up, I was telling you guys a couple of months ago, I was looking at the London Hotel, a hotel in New York City, on their website. And the next thing I know, every single time I opened up Facebook, there was an ad for the London Hotel. And I was just like, oh, for crying out loud. So it's that sort of a thing that I believe. They're looking for the data so that they can retarget and market. I don't know that they're looking to hurt you with it, but I really have no idea. You know what? You know that. I'm telling you point blank. That is for minds bigger than mine that contemplate things that I don't. I'm more talking about the fact that the trust was not there to begin with. That's my contention, that if we look in the mirror, we know that the trust wasn't there in the beginning, at the end. Because of that, that's why it was a stomach punch, because it makes us question ourselves, because we go, I knew it. And because the fact that we don't trust, we don't know what will happen. We don't trust that they will have our back. We say, what's the value of that individual profit and net profit, information for our individual clients that's not valuable to them. But by the fact that we implicitly don't trust them, we really don't know, right? So that's the point. And so bottom line, bring it back to you. Bring it back to your business. Use this as an opportunity to look at your company and the way that you interact with your clients. Are you guilty of any of these things? Do you always put your best foot forward and only that foot forward? Okay? Look at your credibility. Look in the mirror. Worry about you. Guide and instruct your staff and your team to follow your example by always being honest with your clients, always being upfront, and never pretending to them that things are something that they're not, because it's not going to serve you. Just how you can see that this happened here. Okay? So, alrighty, I want to leave you with the thought that this will be fine, right? It will be. I mean, it has to be fine. There's other things in the world that are completely more horrible, more impactful than this. Not to minimize it, but what I want to say about it is to put your head down. Pay attention to your business. You are the center of your universe and of your clients, and that you are in charge of. You can make that a productive place. You can make that a place of respect. You can make that a place of creativity, of joy, of collaboration. Create that environment for yourself, your staff, and your clients, and put your head down and do your best work, okay? I'm not suggesting that you don't ever look up and take a look around at the industry and know what's going on. Certainly a smart business person knows what's going on in the industry, but I'm just suggesting that you do not need to be so nervous and so worried that you forget to put one foot in front of the other and take care of the clients that are looking at you and are putting their faith and their trust in you, in knowing and wanting you to do a good job by them. Okay? That's what's important. All right? And you may need their goodwill someday. Okay? I'm just saying. I've seen it borne out many times over the years at Window Works. I had a situation recently, I'll share this before I go, where it really is the flip side of what happened here, okay? So I have a client that's been my client for many, many years. We've done 3 renovations of her home here in New Jersey, and we've also done work on her vacation home. And so about, every 7 or 8 years, she blows out a room and, builds on 5 or 6 rooms. I mean, she's an amazing, amazing woman. She has such great taste, and she has a lot of kids, and so there's always different needs, and they're changing. And she is probably one of under 5 of our clients that has my cell phone number. You know that I don't like to communicate by text and cell when it comes to business. Hi, how are you? Happiness, all that stuff, that's fine. But things that I got to remember and I got to keep track of, I don't like it in a text. But it's a different relationship with her. And so in the beginning of the year, I don't know if you know it, but in the third week of December, my father had passed away. And then quickly right after that, about 10 days, 2 weeks later, my second granddaughter was born. And these 2 things happened back to back, and the holidays were in the middle of it. The Christmas and the New Year's holidays were in the middle of it. So it was very busy. And during that period of time, I was getting a lot of texts of condolence, a lot of texts of congratulations, and a lot of texts on Happy New Year and Merry Christmas and all of that other stuff. And in the middle of this, a text came from this particular client. And I happened to see it one day. I was busy doing whatever I was doing. She was asking for an update on her information and also asking to set up another appointment. And like I said, normal MO, this is not how this gets done, but it is how it gets done with her, and it's okay. But I saw it was busy, couldn't react, and decided I would handle it later. Well, honest to goodness, it was about a week later, and I happened to be going through my text looking for something else, and I thought, oh my goodness, holy moly. She texted me a week ago, and and so I called over to WindowWorks, and first I called her. She didn't answer. I texted her. I said, hey, are you there? She didn't answer. I was like, oh my goodness, right? So I called over to WindowWorks, and I said to Adriana, please, know that you want to keep trying to call her, but send her an email and just say, we're so sorry. Luann just came, saw your text from last week. We apologize, but it's a very busy time for her right now. She's getting lots of texts at this time. And if you wouldn't mind switching your communication over to, through WindowWorks, we'd appreciate it. And by the way, she's available on Friday if you want her to come at, whatever time. So I'm not saying it word for word what it was, but it was about like this. Couple hours later, I happen to look at the emails, and this woman is pissed. She basically fires off this email. Well, you know what? I didn't realize that she was so busy that she couldn't take my text messages. I thought this is the way that she preferred that we communicate with each other. And yeah, she doesn't need to come over on Friday. It's like, holy crap. I mean, I just stared at that email and I went, oh my goodness. And so now I went back to the email that we had sent her. And I read it once and I'm like, what's wrong? And then I read it again. I'm like, take out everything you know about it, Luann. Take out what you know. And it could come across like pretty lousy. And so I called her. And now I leave a message, a detailed message. And I apologize and this and that. 10 minutes later, my phone rings. And she says, I see you left me a message. And I could see and hear that she was mad. And I said to her, I am so sorry. I have offended you. It's so obvious. And she said, well, I mean, I don't know. You're too busy for text messages. Are you too busy for this phone call? And I just said to her, listen to me. I really am sorry. I said, I just reread the email to you, and reading it cold, not knowing anything, just the email. You know what? It's on us. I really, really am sorry. I said, but can I ask you a big favor? Can I ask you to think about the 25 years that we've done business together? Can I ask you to consider the relationship that we've had for all that time? Can I ask you to just put that aside for a second and let me say something to you? And if you are not interested in hearing it, then I will stop right now. And she said, no, go ahead. And I said, listen, my dad died 2.5 weeks ago, had a grandbaby was born 5 or 6 days ago, 3 days ago, whatever it was. I said, and honestly, I probably have had 50 text messages in the last 2 weeks. And honestly, your text message was lost in the middle of it. And our effort to ask you to switch over to communication with the showroom was not because I'm not interested in handling our conversations personally anymore. It was so that they would be handled. I did not want you lost in this shuffle. And of course she said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I said, no. This isn't about asking for your sympathy. This isn't about justifying. I'm actually just simply explaining why this happened. But more than that, I am taking responsibility for when I reread that email and realizing that we could have handled that so much better, and that we should have handled it so much better, that I allowed in my mind lots of things to be read into it, and clearly they were not the right things. I heard it one way, meant it one way, and it's so obvious to me that I missed the mark. So I'm apologizing to you. And she's trying to say, no, it's me. I said, no, it is not you. You and I have always communicated by text. If I wanted to change the rules of that game, I needed to do it in a better way and to explain it. And she said, well, if you had just said to me too what was going on. I said, I hear you. I said, in my mind, I didn't want to lean on personal things. I said, but I can see how that would have filled out the situation for you. And really what I'm saying to you guys is that ultimately, I ended up saying to her, can I ask you a big favor? Can you and I go back to 2 days ago when before that email was sent? Can we go back to all of the things that we shared before that? I respect you. You respect me. We have a good relationship. We work well together. And we've always, always known that we have each other's best interests at heart. Can we wipe the slate clean and start fresh? Are you able to do that with me? I would love the chance to do that with you. And she said, absolutely. But you see, that was because there was never a red flag in 25 years. And she said that. She goes, I read that. I looked at that. I showed it to my husband. And my husband looked at me and said, that's not like her. What happened to her? You see, she still got mad. In the moment, she still had the knee-jerk reaction, okay? She's entitled to it. But what I'm saying is that because it wasn't like, she didn't look at her husband and say, what do you think of that? And him go, she's always like that. Like every once in a while, you think that everything's fine. And then she talks like that, or she does this, or she, their company does this. They were dumbfounded by that. And that was the reason why that we were able to, her and I, move past it, because I had credibility in that. She knows that that is not what we meant. Once she heard the story and understood what we were expressing, she knew exactly that I never intended to blow her off or just switch her over or whatever. But if it had been the third or fourth time, or if there had been little things along the way, even in that moment, if she had said to me, yeah, okay, we're fine, that would have just been one more of those red flags. It might not have been the one that broke the camel's back, but it would have been one more of those red flags. And instead, it was the single only incident. And when I owned it, when I acknowledged her feelings, when I acknowledged our mistake in it, and I didn't pretend that she was exaggerating a situation, I didn't pretend that I couldn't understand how it was hurtful when she read it, when those things all happened, combined with the goodwill of 25 years and the credibility of a 25-year relationship, we were able to get past it. Okay? So that's what I'm suggesting is the lesson in this, is that when you conduct yourself your very best, when you can look in the mirror every single night when you go to bed and you say, I have done the very best I can by my employees, by my vendors, and by my clients today, you will reap the benefits tenfold. You will build your business. You will build your reputation. You will be successful. Okay? So that's my take on this thing. It's a little different than a lot of the things. And as I said, it certainly doesn't negate any of your real concerns about what's happening from a business level between you and these companies if you are an IV platform user. So, but I do think that this is a lesson for all of us, and I would love for you to take it to heart and see if you can find a way in there to get some inspiration for conducting yourself with credibility and with integrity, and to devoting yourself and your company to unparalleled customer service. Okay? All right. Now, let me tell you, big things happening on Wednesday. Okay? Big. Huge, like Julia Roberts, huge. It is our 300th episode on Wednesday, and it is the birthday party for the podcast, the second birthday party. We are having it in New York City at Lefroy Brooks, and they are hosting us, and so far we have more than 120 people coming. If you are going to be in the New York, New Jersey area, please come to the party. You can RSVP by going to luannigara.com/party. We are going to have food and wine, and all of us are going to be there. We are going to have video. My uncle and my aunt are going to be doing video over there. We have a photographer there. We'll have our step and repeat there. We have so many guests coming in from out of town. Sarah Wilson is coming in. Liza Jones is coming in. Darla Powell is coming in. Elizabeth Scruggs is coming in. These are women. Paula Kinney is coming in. These are women that are all coming in on planes to be here. Okay. And then, of course, we have all of our New York, New Jersey peeps that are going to be there, too. Gail Davis is coming. My Kimberly will be there. My whole team will be there. Oh, my goodness. I can't even think of all the names. It's just crazy how many of this. Sandra Funk and her team are going to be there. You know, my brain is spinning trying to remember all of you wonderful people. But listen to me. Come on out. Nicole Heimer's going to be there. Every time I say another thing, another name's going to come to my mind. But more than that, there's a huge, huge announcement on the podcast for Wednesday. In addition, so these are the things I'm willing to share with you right now, but there are other things that are happening, okay? Another big thing that is happening, but you have to listen Wednesday to find out, all right? And I want to say to you that we've got back to designer interviews next week. Don't fear, they are not gone just because these last couple of weeks have been sort of solo show after solo show for one reason or another, but we will be back right on track with our designer interviews. One of the ones that we have coming up soon next week is going to be the Meadowbank Designs team out of Philadelphia. Wait till you hear this story. Amazing story of how they bought their interior design firm from the woman that they used to work for. You see, so sometimes acquisitions are good, you know? That's my point. Acquisitions can be good. This one could have been good too if things were handled differently. And by the way, the jury is out. Maybe the acquisition will still be good. All right? Who knows? We can have hope. We can have faith. Just conduct yourself in a way that you are protected and that your clients are protected and that your reputation is protected. That is the huge message of this podcast, is that when you take care of your clients and you take care of your reputation, when things go awry, you have the opportunity to correct them and right them, and you have the opportunity to save the trust that you have built with your clients, provided you have built it. Really, that's the bottom line. Okay? All righty. So do one thing today. Decide to do one thing today that will build trust with somebody in your circle. Do something for a client, do something for an employee, do something for a partner today. Decide today to do one thing to be excellent. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.